Good afternoon. We're down the home stretch. Welcome to this University Engagement Panel, Session 3, where the topic will be Advocacy for Clean Air in Houston-Galveston. I'll be your moderator, Dr. Stephen Pinckney. I'm with the Bullitt Center for Environmental and Climate Justice at Texas Southern University in 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas. A little bit about the Bullitt Center. We focus on community engagement, student engagement, research and data analysis, including air quality research and data analysis, emergency response, policy recommendation, and more. We also address longstanding issues dealing with environmental, climate, social, and racial justice, especially when it comes to the disproportionate placement of pollution in Black communities, low-income communities, and other communities of color. We also advocate for community resiliency because we do understand that all communities are not created equally. When I speak of community resiliency, I'm speaking of a community's capacity to be able to withstand, adapt to, and recover from various challenges, including natural disasters, economic crisis, and other disruptions. That's why we work so closely with community-based organizations to address such issues. We also advocate and promote environmental sustainability, and I'm speaking of the proper management of our natural resources so we have enough for the present and for our future generations to come. One particular natural resource that needs properly managing is our air. Clean air is critical for human health and our environment. That's why I'm so excited to have these panelists up here today. They're going to bring more education and awareness to clean health in Houston-Galveston. This panel will also highlight clean air, and they will advocate for it at the university and higher education level. So without further ado, I will introduce the panelists to you. First, we have Dr. Rebecca J. Sheasley. She's professor in the Department of Environmental Science at Baylor University. Then we have Ms. Christiana Bowles, Assistant Director for Sustainability at Rice University. And then we have Mr. Jacoby Wesley, Vice President of the Bullitt Center student-led organization, ECO, which stands for Environmental Conservation Organization at Texas Southern University. Each panelist will get 8 minutes to do a presentation. After they're done, we'll have a Q&A session by me. If we have time, I will open up to the audience. So without further ado, I think Mr. Jacoby Wesley will go first.
Oh, the microphone.
Yes. Oh. Hello. Oh, there. Thank you all for being here today. Good afternoon. My name is Jacoby Wesley. I am a graduating senior at the illustrious Texas Southern University. I hail from the great place of Dallas, Texas. No, I do not claim Fort Worth. But please thank you all for being here today, and let's continue. I was answered 3 questions as I was giving this presentation to make for you all today. The first question I'd like to cover is, what inspired you to get involved in advocating for clean air and environmental improvements? Secondly, how can we better engage university students in environmental issues? What role does education play in the building of future environmental leaders? So with the first question being answered, I'd like to speak on the HBCU Environmental Climate Justice Course. That is a summer program starting in 2023, which I was actually lucky enough to be one of the first members to be in. This is a program where they take students from directly Texas Southern University and educate them on many different things that they may not have known. So it's kind of like taking a baby and nurturing it for it to grow. We learned from air quality, water quality, soil quality. We touched on GIS mapping. We used the TRI index, to study different pounds of toxic waste being put in the air. So as we're going forward, and since this is the Air Quality Summit, the things that we do that are based around air quality are actually mostly the air quality field trips. The very first field trips each class takes will be the toxic tour through the environmental justice communities and speaking with some of the community-based organizations. Our toxic tour takes place between Pleasantville, Sunnyside, and 5th Ward, Houston, Texas. With that being said, this is the 2023 inaugural class of the HBCU Climate Consortium. I myself was in this class. This class was only made up of strictly Texas Southern University students. This is the following year of 2024. This class had 10 HBCUs mixed in with Texas Southern University students. And with the most recent year coming to a close, the 2025 Climate Consortium, this class was filled with 14 different HBCUs. So the more we have, the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we open our doors to expand other students to being educated in HBCU students to be educated in air quality and environmental injustices. As you can see, we have the father of environmental justice, Dr. Bowie, here with the 2025 class. Nextly, how can we better engage university students in environmental issues? The answer to that is the Environmental Conservation Organization. This organization is a student-led organization that informs other students to things they thought that were natural that are not. So for example, myself, being a young black man, a lot of people think that asthma is actually hereditary. It is not. Due to the poor air quality and the PM1 and PM2 particles that are in the air, they affect our lungs. A lot of people think breathing a certain type of way is normal. It is due to the air quality that's in the air. So a few things that ECO puts on. We had a big turnout last year for Earth Day, April 22nd, 2025. We had a farmer's market. One of the biggest turnouts that we had, a lot of students, they met with a lot of community-based organizations. They gave away a lot of free things for them. They educated them on how things are supposed to look, as far as dealing with soil. Soil is not supposed to have certain things in it, dealing with air quality. And going forward, this is actually a TSU Eco outing where we studied cancer clusters in the soil. This is right now, these pictures are in 5th Ward, Houston, Texas, and we are watching and learning, and they are walking us through the process of collecting soil. So this is the former president of ECO, a good friend of mine, Destiny Okonkwo. She was also in the 2023 inaugural year of the HBCU climate class, but she used all her knowledge that she learned to push forward and apply for the White House initiative. Following in those footsteps, she was a criminal justice major, but now she's using that degree to go into environmental justice. So that is just the impact of the HBCU Climate Consortium. A lot of people in those classes, once they learn more about it, they use their degrees to fight for the environment. A lot of people in my age group, Gen Z, millennials, they get caught up in what they see in the internet. And far as you all know, the news is not forward pushing with environmental issues. Those are some of the last things that actually get covered. So with that being said, we bring environmental injustices and fight for environmental justice on the front line. And this is what they teach us to do with the research we have gained. And on top of that, we have partnered with Evolved, and they have given us a grant to work with e-bikes. E-bikes are the next step in the future of reducing our carbon footprint and helping less emissions go into the air, which is directly affecting air quality. A few years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, someone put out a 3D render model of New York. And they have all the main streets in downtown, but they have these little green bubbles that come out of the cars, simulating air pollution. They stacked that up, and they said around 2027 that it would be over 200 million gallons of air pollution just in New York alone. You know, they have bumper-to-bumper traffic. So with the step that we're taking in these e-bikes, that will reduce all of that. So a big thing that ECO is a part of, and a big thing that ECO stands for, is community involvement. Texas Southern, if you do not know, is based in 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas, directly across the street from U of H, and about 10 minutes from Rice University. We hail on Scott and Cleburne. One thing that 3rd Ward has a lot of is community-based organizations that are actually for students in the surrounding area. So we like to keep them involved. We've donated multiple e-bikes to close community-based organizations around the area to make them feel more involved in getting more cars off the road and reducing our carbon footprint. For the last question I'll be answering today, what role does education play in building environmental leaders? Intergenerational research. And intergenerational research, is just a baton passing of information from a higher up to a lower. So here we have this chart of how professors pass down the knowledge to PhD students, master students, undergrad students, and then forms of primary education. So as myself, I am still an undergrad student, but I can go back and take from what I've learned from my doctoral professor, Dr. Stephen Pinckney, to primary education students. So this is one of the first intergenerational researches I happen to be a part of. This is actually my group that I worked with personally. We studied chemical, LNG, and petrochemical site mapping. We covered a lot of areas from LaPorte, the Houston Ship Channel, all the way to, Brazoria County. I'm sorry, slipping. But all of these LNG sites and plants are on the ship channel. Why? Because they have to keep it cool. But on top of that, they're also polluting the air because they're putting about 24.7 million pounds of toxic waste in the atmosphere. Another one that was a big turnout was the air pollution and the quality of air, done by another group of the 2023 inaugural year. They covered between Pleasantville and Sunnyside. So now with the 2026 FIFA World Cup coming, with the e-bikes and all the air pollution, there's going to be a massive surge of smog in the air, haze in the air. And with the e-bikes, we will be taking air samples and circling around NRG while many people are here. So with that being said, with the intergenerational research, I myself actually train the next riders that will help us work in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So this is this is the last class, and this is all of them after they finish their training. We took some of them out to ride. We have experienced riders and new riders. We are always open to welcoming new people to help us take emissions off the road and reduce our carbon footprint in the air. As you can see, our longest ride was from Texas Southern all the way to Memorial Heights. Memorial Heights. Thank you. Sorry, the Heights. That was about a 10-mile ride. 12-mile ride. Excuse me. Sorry. 12-mile ride. Excuse me. Led by Dr. Stephen Pinckney and myself. And as we train new riders, these riders will help us take and sample air quality while the FIFA World Cup is here. Thank you all.
Just in case you didn't know, I was the one taking the pictures. That's what I'm going to do. All right. Let's see. Next, we have Dr. Sheasley.
Yeah. So hopefully I pitched this correctly. In terms of what I was going to talk about today, I was going to just briefly describe the kind of programming we have at Baylor University, which is it's not actually connected to the Baylor College of Medicine. We have the same name, but we're not actually connected, so I just want to do that little disclaimer. But we do have this kind of global scope, global impact, which should probably include also global scope, local impact, because that's what we're interested in, and that's what the students are interested in, right? So I love your passion. I think that was fantastic to hear, and I think the role of the faculty at these universities is to try and help you channel that passion, and also give you the background to go after the things that you want to go after the questions that you want to go after. So in our Department of Environmental Science at Baylor, we have 17 full-time faculty, and we're trying to provide a range of background for students to cover kind of different environmental quality questions, climate change questions, but also environmental law questions, environmental justice questions. So in order to give students the tools that they need to go out and get the jobs that they want, be the sustainability coordinator somewhere, to work at a university, to work in local government, we need to give them all the tools that they need and give them kind of the breadth of knowledge that they need to do that. And when you come into an undergraduate education, you have kind of your toolkit that you bring from high school, but that may not cover everything that you need, and you may not even know what all the options are out there for you. So we're trying to introduce new subjects, talk about climate change in a way that you haven't heard before, talk about air quality, which you may have never actually thought of before. I do find that students from Houston, sometimes students from Dallas, have some idea about air quality issues, some idea about ozone, but maybe if you come from a rural community, you may not think you have any ozone You may not think you have any air quality problems at all. You may not think that climate change is going to affect you. So it's really important for us to kind of make it a real problem, make it a real issue that everyone can understand, and also to give you the tools to how do you address this issue, who is affected by this, and what do we do about it. These are pictures of all the professors. Just to give you some idea, we have a wide range of people. And also, if you have kind of environmental questions, please do reach out to us all directly. I wanted to talk for just a minute about some of the undergraduate opportunities for engagement that we have with air quality and community action. So we do try to kind of start with our coursework. So students can take courses in air quality, take courses in environmental law, environmental justice, and environmental policy. So we're trying to get that range of, we've talked a lot today about outdoor air quality, but indoor air quality as well. There have been fascinating studies looking at kind of how your activities indoors will affect what your indoor air quality is. We've heard already today about that question of how do you decide if you open the windows? How do you decide if your outdoor air quality is better or your indoor air quality is better? These are really important questions. And we need a little bit more research, and we need a little bit more creativity in thinking about some of these kind of questions and some of these issues. There have been really interesting studies about what happens to homes when they're constantly under a barrage of pollution. So they've looked at those in terms of like wildfire studies, but I don't know how much we've looked at that in terms of industrial emissions. If your house is constantly kind of inundated with industrial emissions, I don't know what that means in terms of what has been absorbed into your home itself. So there's a lot more work to be done and a lot more interesting questions that we can ask. I did want to plug a little bit and talk a little bit about some of the activities that we have at Baylor. We have a really active and vibrant Baylor Community Gardens, and that was something that was started by a lab coordinator in my department who has since retired, but it's a way for students who maybe have only lived in urban areas and don't have a whole lot of experience with maybe fresh produce, don't have a whole lot of experience with growing things themselves, to have an opportunity to see what agriculture is like, see what growing your own vegetables is like, but then also all of the produce from that is then distributed in the community. Some of it goes back to the students and is offered for students who are kind of struggling with hunger. It's offered back to them, but it also is offered then to the community, and then also is a place to do composting. So it's turned out to be kind of this very interesting hub of sustainability discussions within our university community. And you get to be outside and you get to kind of watch things grow. Another recent one is the Waco Green Communities Conference, which does a sustainability conference that's run in Waco, has some university connections, but also has a lot of connections with the community itself and is run by the community itself. So that's a place for us as a university to kind of communicate and work directly with local high schools and local community groups within Waco. The last thing are research opportunities with faculty, and this is where and this was, I think, highlighted in really nicely in the previous talk. If students are given the opportunity to work directly with faculty members, then they can become inspired. Even if you don't go on to do exactly that thing for the rest of your life, you at least have gained this kind of super valuable experience and get a little bit of, understand some of the passion of doing research yourself, but also kind of expand your own horizons. Then I just wanted to talk briefly about some of the work that I've participated in terms of air quality studies in Houston. So I've worked for a long time with the University of Houston. We've done a whole series of studies with the TCEQ. We did 3 years of mobile monitoring based out of the LaPorte Airport. We've done wildfire impact studies and Saharan dust impact studies for the city of Houston from 2020 to 2024. In this particular study, we were looking at, we were funded by the Department of Energy, and we were looking at spatial differences in air pollution across the city. So as we've heard today, there's a lot of concern. There are a lot of emission sources in the Houston shipping channel area. And it's super important to understand in terms of exposure for the communities around that area, but also for the potential for pollution to then disperse and impact even more communities. But we also need to understand what the differences are across all these communities within Houston. We need to, I have no minutes remaining. So this is a tiny visual that just shows kind of benzene concentrations that we saw at all of these different sites. And this was our San Jacinto battleground, and these were all the other sites in Houston, just to give some idea of just scalar differences in what people are exposed to if you live here versus living in some of the other regions. But that's not true for every single compound. So we need to know what all the different compounds are doing, and we need to know what's going on everywhere. So that was all. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for the presentation. Next, we have Ms. Christiana Bowles.
I gave myself one slide because I didn't trust myself with multiple not to go over the 8 minutes. And I'm going to try and condense 20 plus years of sustainability work into 8 minutes. So I spoke with my senior executive director, Richard Johnson, and we outlined 4 different large-scale categories that I'm going to be covering. The first of which, solid waste and recycling, all of our alternative transportation efforts, our energy systems across campus, and then just some other general efforts we have going on. I will say it's not an all-encompassing list because that would take 80 minutes, easy, not just 8. But I just wanted to give you all a bit of a breadth of what we're doing over at Rice. So with solid waste and recycling, we have a very robust composting program that actually came forward from, well, most of these actually came from students coming to our administration, seeing challenges and offering up solutions. So our composting program, my boss loves to tell this story. I actually just had a conversation with the student on Sunday. We are now friends. She came to him and said, composting needs to happen on campus. You're going to hire me and I'm going to figure out how to do it. And he's like, oh, okay, here is 20 hours a week, have at it. And so she did a bunch of research around Houston and found an upcoming entity now known as Moonshot Organics, previously Moonshot Compost, as our campus partner. She worked very closely with our housing and dining team to figure out which of our serveries, our all-you-can-eat dining halls, we could start with to start scaling up a composting program. First in the back of house, where we can educate our chefs and dining staff, and then working at how to expand it to our front of house, which we now have. Since November of 2020, when the program started, we have collected over 1.56 million pounds of food waste that's been composted just from our small campus. Another student-led project was our new Move Out campaign that we have had going on for the last 2 years now, called our Give a Hoot, Donate Your Loot. You got to tie in that campus mascot wherever you can for education and engagement. This is a part of a class that is co-taught by myself as well as our executive director, focused on using campus as a living lab, where students, faculty, staff, we're expanding now to nonprofits, cities, etc., can come to us with a sustainability challenge and say, hey, we're noticing X, Y, and Z. Is there a way we can test solutions using Rice's equipment, Rice's facilities on the Rice campus to scale up a potential solution and give students that hands-on experience of taking what they're learning in the classroom and applying it to a real-world challenge? And so in that class that semester, the students said, hey, we're noticing tons and tons of stuff just being thrown in dumpsters as students are moving out for the summer. Can we work on a project for the semester and figure out how we can minimize that or get rid of it entirely? And so I was working at Texas A&M at the time. They reached out to me as well as several other campus partners across the state of Texas. and did a bunch of background research on vendors within and around the greater Houston area who do textile recycling and things of that nature. They put together a whole 20-page research paper outlining Green City Recycler as the preferred vendor to work with us. And then when I got hired, thanks to my husband getting a job in Houston and us relocating, I got hired on at my original role at Rice as the sustainability coordinator and was instructed to take what the students had spent all semester working on and implement it that next semester in the spring. That turned into a massive success. There were some kinks, education, making students aware that this was a brand new resource to them as part of the move out process, but it's now become a semesterly program that we run. And since spring of 2023, we have collected and either recycled, donated, or resold over 32,300 pounds of textile goods, so clothes, shoes, small furniture, etc. In the alternative transportation vein, we are currently looking at piloting an electric bus. So how many of y'all have been on the Rice campus? Just a show of hands. Okay, we like all those trees, right? Yes. The downside to having the campus be a designated arboretum is all of those lovely trees encompassing our inner loop drive really limits the size of an electric bus or a bus in general that we can have driving through the campus. Because if it's too long, you run the risk of someone's parallel parked on the side, you have to go around them, you're starting to hit tree branches and damage our lovely trees. So we have just found, you can see right there on the right-hand side, a electric bus the University of Virginia has on their campus. And so our alternative transportation team went and toured last month, and we're actually getting one of those buses. It's supposed to be delivered today, actually, for us to try and see how it works, what it's like for our drivers, what it's like for our students and staff who utilize our shuttle system. So that's something that we have in the works. We have a variety of alternative transportation methods already in existence. So the shuttles that we have now are obviously diesel, which isn't fantastic, but it is an alternative transportation option for our students and faculty and staff to get around campus. We also have a partnership with Connect Smart. That was actually through the HGAC Commute Solutions team that connected us with them. So shout out to HGAC Commute Solutions. We have multiple different bus or biking maps that I need to actually go through and update a little bit. That Lisa Lynn, when she was actually working at Rice previously before she left us, had developed, which has been really helpful. We have free Metro Q cards for all of our undergraduate students that the university worked out with Metro, and they're heavily subsidized for our graduate students to encourage them to take public transit that way as well. And then for our energy systems, currently we are trying to move away from our use of natural gas and really have our natural gas only be used in the event of an emergency like Snowmageddon that Houstonians don't get to experience a lot. So we also have solar panels on 3 of our buildings currently, as well as expanding to our new colleges that are being built just across the way. You probably see the cranes and the giant towers going up. That's our new Lubbock College, so one of our former colleges is moving into a new space, and then our newly named, as of I think 2-3 weeks ago, Chow College, that'll be coming online in fall 26. Both of those will have solar panels as well as their new servery is going to be an all-electric kitchen. There will be no natural gas anywhere within those operations. And then finally, just some other efforts. So obviously our Arboretum designation, all the purification, we do have our grounds team that focuses on planting native plants whenever possible, which is wonderful, but obviously maintaining the university architect's vision for what campus should look like and the aesthetic of higher education. It has, that old England look, very manicured space. So navigating those challenges while maintaining natural biodiversity, as well as our education events. So this is a lovely picture from Campus Sustainability Day. So fun fact, all of you higher ed professionals, for all of you students in the room, October is Campus Sustainability Month. So obviously everyone knows Earth Month in April, but how do we tie in students early on in their academic year? October is the perfect month to do that. And that designation actually comes from the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education, aka ASHE, because that's a mouthful to say every time you say it. Check and see if your institution is a member. You get a whole bunch of resources if your institution pays to be a member that's free to you. as well as the Texas version, the Texas Regional Alliance for Campus Sustainability. So if any of y'all are from Texas institutions, please come see me. I'm sure that we would love to have you join us if you haven't already been an active member. And I think that's it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We're going to go ahead and move to the Q&A session. I'm going to hand this to the first person, Dr. Sheasley. All right, I'm going to start with Dr. Sheasley, if you don't mind. From your experience, what strategies have been most effective in building trust and sustained engagement within the communities you serve when tackling air quality or environmental issues?
That's a really great question. I think it's kind of an ongoing work, right? So it's an ongoing work that we have. I think our most effective community action and community advocacy programs have really close tie-ins with community groups. So students are there for 4 years, faculty may come and go, but the community is always there. And so you need to have that kind of constant of the community leaders, and you need to have the constant of that community connection in order for these programs and these systems to keep going forward. I think the really great thing about working at a university is just the passion of the students. And so I think the passion and the energy of the students makes it, it's kind of a good source of energy to use to connect out with the communities. And it's a good source of energy to kind of power through and get things done. So a lot of like the community gardens and the Waco Green Communities Conference, a lot of that comes from the energy of the students, as well as, the passion of one faculty member is not going to drive the whole thing, right? So the passion of a group of students can take you much further. The connection with the community can take you much further. So I think that's where, as a university, you can kind of provide a structure for some of that. Sometimes you can provide funding for some of that, but you really need the buy-in and the passion from the students and from the local community.
That was just for you.
That was just from, oh, sorry.
No, you can hold it because you're next. You get to have your own question.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Christiana Bowles, how have you successfully translated university-led efforts or lived experiences into meaningful change, and what challenges did you face in that particular process?
So meaningful change, the first thing that comes to mind is because it's my baby, it's what I did at A&M and what I was in charge of doing coming to Rice. Our Move Out campaign has really been an exemplar for other institutions. Part of that is because of the TRACS network, so the Texas Regional Alliance for Sustainability. That was actually co-created with our senior executive director, along with the directors of sustainability at Texas A&M, now the director of sustainability at Baylor, who was formerly at UT Dallas at that time. But really sharing across our resources. So I implemented the Move Out campaign here at Rice through the work of the students. So again, them being the catalyst of seeing a problem, because we're sustainability professionals, we're higher ed professionals. I don't live on campus. I did that in undergrad, never going back. But they're living, breathing, playing, studying in the space. They're seeing it 24/7, 365. Well, not 365, but some of them are. So really listening to them as seeing what the challenges are. So when I brought that forward, we tested it out. We started sharing it with our TRACS network. Next thing you know, I have students from Baylor University reaching out to me saying, hey, do you think Green City Recycler would be interested in expanding up to us? Because we think it's a very sustainable infrastructure, how you have it laid out. And then the next thing you know, I'm reaching back to A&M, to my old boss in Res Life, saying, hey, you got to work with this partner. Like, this is a whole different ball game than we've been playing the last 20 years at A&M. And so now they're working directly with GCR at both of those institutions, and hopefully expanding to many, many more. But that's been a really big success for us, just being transparent with what's working well for us and what isn't. Sustainability cannot be spelled without us. It is not existing in a silo. We have to continuously, cross departments, stakeholder groups, et cetera, to share what we know is working, what isn't, and then work together to find a solution.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. Wesley, what advice would you give to universities that are just starting their own stewardship program to ensure their efforts are both impactful and sustainable?
Just for me personally, the type of advice I would give is to make sure that, as stated earlier, that the professors are inspiring the students, which is how I gained my proficiency and my passion for it. Without intergenerational research and without the people above us passing down the knowledge to show us that these things aren't supposed to be as they are, like, let's fight for change. I think with the proper staff and the proper organizations and community-based organizations that they can meet with, that would be a big factor in actually showing the students, like, okay, y'all want to change campus, you want campus to look healthier, then they would discuss what would be the next step for them to take.
Okay, thank you very much. At this particular time, I'd like to open up questioning from the audience. Don't be shy. Oh, it's a hand.
I'll go. Right. So I have a pet project I would love to see somewhere within the Houston region, especially with the Houston ISD, but this might be great for Rice if you're more open for natural gas. But as you have the Moonshot Organics already doing the composting, it would be a small jump for that composting to go into a different type of digester, capture the natural gas, use that as fuel for your diesel shuttle buses, and then we can take those diesel shuttle buses, I'll put them in natural gas buses. I don't know if there's a question in there, just a little comment.
That's something that we are working on. So Chris and Joe have reached out and they've switched into
Fantastic.
that. And the eventual goal, I didn't get to this because I know 8-minute time limit. For the buses that we don't automatically switch to electric, because monetary things, funding in higher ed is very lean right now and will get leaner. We're looking to switch all of those to B100 biodiesel. We did examine the potential for renewable, but the soybean crop that they were going to use, the emissions reductions weren't as great versus us just reusing waste cooking oil and things like that. So, in the works.
Great, thank you. Keep me posted with that.
Do I see another hand? Who's first?
Just to touch a little bit more on transportation, I don't mean to pick on Rice, but you brought up transportation. I mean, there's a lot of other aspects to transportation. I mean, Rice is a centralized campus, but it goes out into the community through its fleet. Like, I'm thinking athletics, its professors go out and attend. What sorts of efforts have we made internally to transform those types of opportunities, whether it's, I don't know, I see Rice vans and they're not electric and that transport athletes. Are you looking at those? And they have golf carts too that I see.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, knock on wood, I'm going to be a liar. I'm pretty sure all of our golf carts are in the process of being switched over into being electric versus diesel. That was part of a larger scale operation to consolidate golf carts because beforehand each department was kind of just purchasing random golf carts and our transportation team was being asked to fix 5 different brands of golf carts. So that's all been consolidated now into our concierge service where you can actually just request a golf cart on campus. They'll hand deliver it to you, and all of those for the concierge fleet are electric now. I have chatted with our athletics team, just general sustainability in athletics. I have a couple of good friends and colleagues who are a part of the Green Sports Alliance. And so we're in conversations, but it's just the initial stages of that.
Yeah, go
My
ahead.
question is, this university is a silos, and we have all these great papers, environmental justice, y'all know what's right. What will it take to get those experts in environmental justice that are making all these great papers come to the ledge with the community to advocate for actual legislative change?
So for us, the Office of Sustainability where I reside is just one piece of the puzzle. We have many other departments, the Baker Institute, the Kinder Institute, the Center for Civic Leadership, who are already very well embedded in communities around Houston. We're not trying to step in and take over what they're doing. We're mostly trying to say, if we have a student or faculty member who comes to us with an idea, concern, or insights like research papers, we connect them to our appropriate campus offices who are already embedded in those communities because they've already built that trust, right? Versus me coming as a brand new person saying, hey, this so-and-so said this is what you need to do to fix your community. That's gonna come off real wrong real quickly. So by funneling it through like the CCL or one of our institutes, that's how we can bring about change.
So I'm a member of the CCL. My question, I don't think I made it clear, is how do we then get professors and experts, you know, to have written papers and say, hey, we're seeing this kind of toxics in the air and this is bad for the community. To hop on that bus with the community, to support the community with expert matter or expert witness, to go to the different legislators and to, you know, provide support to the community and community change.
I think there's a couple different factors impacting that, especially because I know very few faculty who aren't having a heavy teaching load, and so impacting their classes for the semester has to be taken into account. I definitely think you and I should connect, because I know that like Rachel Milo from the Baker Institute is constantly in front of legislatures pushing for plastics and waste advocacy. So I think it's just a matter of funneling into what they already have scheduled. Because people are already going and already have transportation sorted. It's just a matter of who can shift around their schedule and go and advocate with them from a scientific and academic lens, in addition to community members.
Yeah, I have another question. What was the most successful project that was suggested by a student, and what was the outcome?
So my boss would be much better at answering that because he's got 20 years of institutional experience, not including when he was an undergrad. As far as what I've seen in my last almost 3 years of working at Rice, it is the Move Out campaign with how quickly it took off. Especially because when I shifted it to my boss at A&M and said, Carol, like, you gotta work with these people, they'll make your life 100 times easier. The sheer amount of stuff collected from Texas A&M, where our entire live-on population is 11,000 students, which is more than Rice's total enrollment. They collected, I think, 3,000 pounds of stuff-ish, whereas that semester we collected about 11,000. Now, that's a whole other issue of like students throwing away that much stuff. I'm glad there's an avenue for it to go. But that's something that we need to look at in the future. And I'm really happy that we have that program because now we've kept out over 32,000 pounds of stuff and now connected our colleagues at Baylor and A&M with a resource that's a little more sustainable for them to donate and responsibly dispose of waste and move out.
Yes.
I have a question for Jacoby here. I know that you talked about the benefits of intergenerational learning exchanges from the professor level to the undergraduate level. Have you had any exchanges or experiences with undergraduate level to K through 12 level?
Yes, actually. My mother's actually a registrar, and they were having kind of something similar to Earth Day, but it was just a random thing in a lesson plan. And she just had me kind of show what the kids like. You know, everyone has. Well, when I was in elementary, they taught us how to. You get a cup, put soil, and you put seed in it. Yeah. But nowadays they don't have that much hands-on interaction. So kind of giving that back from what I was giving so long ago to them was definitely, I can see they were having fun just from that experience.
Okay, we have about less than 1 minute. Real quick, did you guys have any students that were in the audience at all? No? Okay, well, if you don't. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and recognize the TSU students that's in the audience. Go ahead and stand up. Take the Southern Bullitt Center students. Yeah, you know. All right. Good deal. Thank you, panelists. That was very engaging and critical information, essential information, and very important what you guys discussed. I thank you, audience, for listening and staying to the end. That is the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.